I'm SP from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a show about the general Marvel comic universe, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other hilarious and fun geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And welcome to Play Comics, where once again we're looking at a video game based on a comic property and how well it represents that source material. And today we're just chilling out down in the sewers because that's where turtles hang out when they've been attacked by Matt Murdock's leftover slime stuff and they turn into ninjas, and who knows where this thing is going. I sure don't. That's why I have Lydon from Spawnography here to help me rein in the craziness. Pierce, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. It's been a minute, and I'm super stoked to be here. I love the turtles. I'm sure we'll get into plenty of that. And yeah, it isn't his slime. It is the truck that was carrying the ooze, I guess, technically, like, swerves out of the way. He drops the turtles. And, the rest is history. But it's not his.
I have already been exposed as a fraud, and we are approximately 10 seconds into the show.
No, it's fine. I am doing this show so that my girlfriend doesn't have to hear about the turtles for like maybe a day. We're moving in together finally, and she's like, I don't really want to hear about where your action figures are going to go.
So where are your action figures going to go?
We'll see. It's not clear yet. I told her she's in charge, and they will go where they're allowed to go. And we will cross that bridge when we build it. The important thing right now is fitting the bed in and making sure the cat is comfortable. So my turtles are secondary, and that's perfectly fine with me.
Well, the real first question I should be asking you is, when you were looking at the whole list of things that were available, what made this Turtles game jump out to you and say, hey, I really want to do this one?
So I think that people don't. All right, this will sound mean, but I relate to turtles in the same way. Like when you think about the history of them, they come up in like 80s indie comics. And one of the things one of my other favorite like 80s indie comics of all time is Love and Rockets. And that is like, people think about that and they're like, right, Maggie the Mechanic, Hopi, it's like punk rock, like LA, Latinx community, like that's so cool. Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez doing their thing, telling these different stories. But people forget that the beginning of that book were these kind of like weird sci-fi adventures where like Maggie would go to space and stuff. And like that was like, she's the mechanic because she would like fix spaceships. Like that was what it was before it was like this like punk rock slice of life thing. And the turtles are weirdly similar in that the book kind of starts out as a parody of Daredevil because Frank Miller is really popular. And a couple of dudes just got stoned in New Hampshire and started drawing stuff at each other. And also, it wasn't even like the main thing that they were planning to do at first. Fugitoid was. Fugitoid, who plays into this game and into the Turtles kind of mythos after the fact. But I think that people forget the weird, like, Triceratons, sci-fi, dimension hopping thing being as much of a part of the Turtles' DNA as it actually is. That sounds like a little bit crazy because everybody, I think, remembers Krang from like the cartoon show. But I think for the most part, people think Turtles, Ninjas, Shredder, got it. Like they think like the 1990 movie as their baseline. And that movie has like zero weird stuff besides giant turtles. So I was excited to talk about this because I want to talk about Triceratons and Zanramon and all this. I think it is such a funny thing to come out. This came out like on PS2, it would have come out when I was a senior in high school. And it's like such a funny thing to sort of revisit, because unless you remember a couple of random levels of Turtles in Time and the original comics and some random episodes of like the 87 cartoon, the Triceratons are not like top of mind. Fugitoid is here, Professor Honeycutt. I don't know. There's a lot of fun stuff. I think the fun thing about the Turtles, you can really do anything that you want with them, and they always fit in a weird way. And this game is kind of proof of that.
Digging through all the toy bins at the comic store, there were so many Turtles in the past couple weeks in just random ass costumes. And that's the thing, is you see them and it's not weird. It's just, okay, what issue was that in? Because I'm probably going to want to go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right. Turtles have been everywhere. I mean, they were sent back to feudal Japan in the greatest movie of that 90s trilogy.
Now I know you're trolling.
I do enjoy that movie, though.
I haven't watched it in a while. I own it on DVD/Blu-ray probably at least 3 times. I did have to... Oh, no. I only own it twice, and it's only on DVD. I restrained myself from buying the Blu-ray, the new Blu-ray that got put out by Arrow. Shout out to Night Owl Video in Williamsburg. Really a mainstay, a recent new classic of physical media. They only sell physical media, and it rules of movies. And they have these like nice box sets. And my girlfriend was like, I don't think you need to buy that, for the 4th time. I like the idea of Turtles in Time, that film, but I do think that the fact that they didn't use the Henson Company for the suits makes the Turtles look bad, unfortunately. So a little bit of a downgrade there. But that's because they cut the budget. As you know, I can talk about this for a very long time.
That's why I have you on the show.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And I guess we are covering a Ninja Turtles 3 in this case. This is also a Ninja Turtles 3. It's just called Mutant Nightmare instead of... And you can unlock Turtles in Time, the game, which has nothing to do with the movie, which is also technically not called Turtles in Time. It just seems like it should be.
A fact that I learned before today, but also way too late in life.
Well, I think the video game, came out the same year as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the movie. So I think that's why in all of our collective memories, like Carl Jung would be proud. Like all of us are just like, right, those are the same thing. The movie and the game came out the same year. They must be the same. That's fine. That game is awesome. This game is actually pretty good. I mean, it's fun.
This game, though, is based on a cartoon. It is not the 87 one that you and I grew up on.
No.
And probably most of the listeners grew up on. It is based off the 2003 version, which I've watched some of. I like it. I need to watch more of it. There's just not enough time in the day to watch all the things that should be watched.
I wish, so the best, if you can track it down, the best of the 2003 series is kind of a Spider-Verse before Spider-Verse type thing, where the 2003 Turtles go through some like dimensional portals or whatever, and they end up teaming up with the 87 Turtles, but they also meet their comic book counterparts, and the 3 teams of Turtles have to defeat a giant laser from the sky that is Krang and or Shredder, as many things are. But the best thing is that the 2003 Turtles are obviously a little edgier than the 80s Turtles, and so 2003 Raph is trying to like show how cool he is to the very, very edgy like original comics Turtles, and they still clown on him, and it's really, really funny. It's good. It's legitimately really fun. It's probably like an hour and 20 minutes long, all told. I think it was like a 4-part miniseries. I guess if you did it now, maybe they did do a newer one where that happens with, or no, sorry, it just happened in the comics where they did like a battle world type thing where all the different versions of the Turtles exist like in the same kind of story. So you get like the Nickelodeon Turtles and you get the movie Turtles also. And some of the Magic cards that came out recently also included kind of all the different versions. That was very weird. Also, in one of the Magic cards, they play Magic, which is also very weird, but whatever. That's fine. Anyway, the 2003 show is really good. It's an extremely 2003 cartoon, but it is actually really good. I find it more watchable as a fun cartoon than the 80s one, which is only watchable as a nostalgia play. And mostly I just watch the Punk Frogs episodes because I think they're funny.
Meanwhile, I just really love 80s and early 90s cartoons, so I can watch those all day long and it's fine. I don't really care. And you do get some weird story arc things going in the 87 series. Whole lot weirder than I remember it being, but this one is the more modern, okay, there's actually story arcs going between episodes and everything. So I like that evolution.
Yeah, this is definitely closer to. I have to imagine. I haven't read anything to prove this, but I have to imagine with the rise of like anime and manga in the West, that this is, like Western animators being very influenced by that stuff and being like, we can do a Turtles that is closer to this. What's actually really interesting is that the original opening of the 80s cartoon is by Peter Chung, who did Aeon Flux, who like created Aeon Flux. That's why the opening of the 80s cartoon looks incredible and is like really excitingly animated for like, that 90 seconds. But the rest of the show doesn't look like that at all and doesn't have the same tone at all. And it's weird. You kind of forget. And my girlfriend is a big Peter Chung fan. And we were like watching Aeon Flux and I'm like, this looks so familiar to me in such like a weird way. And then as soon as I found out that he did the opening of Ninja Turtles, I was like, oh, this tracks. This has just been a part of my DNA since I was 2. So, Did you have a favorite turtle toy growing up? Were you a turtle toy kid?
I didn't really have many Turtles toys. No, my parents kind of made me pick things, and I picked other stuff over Turtles.
What was your preference?
At this point, I can't remember.
Very fair.
So it was probably the wrong choice.
I mean, I was a Turtles and Power Rangers kid, like for sure. I was a little too young for He-Man, so I have no nostalgia for He-Man. Although, being friends with my co-host, George, kind of impossible not to become a He-Man fan on some level. And I think I just generally understood He-Man. Also, I'm a big Centurions fan, which is such a weird property. But I found a turtle van at like a garage sale in pieces. I mean, it's not in great shape, but I bought it. I've carried it around to multiple apartments because I keep telling myself that I'll buy a 3D printer and print all the things that are missing from it. But I have not done that. And I don't know that I will be allowed to display it. I will be allowed. It's not about being allowed. But I think for a little while, Vanessa might be like, maybe clean that one up a little bit before you put it out. But we'll see.
Well, shout out to your local libraries. They might have a 3D printer.
Is that true?
Yeah, libraries have lots of cool stuff.
On that note, as we're recording, there's a lot of discourse right now about comics piracy because one of the biggest comics piracy sites went down and is like gone. And people are like, oh my God, how am I going to read comics? And, the problem with comics right now, as it is a fairly small niche industry, is that they are expensive. That's understandable. And that people that love these characters don't have access to them. To speak about Ninja Turtles specifically, the IDW series has been running for a really long time, recently relaunched a couple of years ago with Jason Aaron. And if you're wanting to dig into those books, go to the library.
Especially on something like Turtles, where you're crossing across different publishers.
Exactly. Go to the library. You can get the Archie stuff. You can get the original Mirage stuff. And if your library doesn't have it, they can contact a different library and get it. And then you'll be the one to have it. And that's always really cool. And the other thing is that libraries also sell stuff. If they have stuff that they get new versions of or whatever, new printings, your library is always going to have a sale. You'll always be able to buy things at an extreme discount. Yeah, will it be used? Sure. But come on. Libraries.
The library sales by us when they have them are something like 1/4 an inch, and they measure the thickness of all the books stacked up.
That's awesome. Oh God. Oh man. My house would just be piles of books at that point.
I'm fighting my wife because ours would be too.
Yeah. Oh man. Libraries are the best. I gotta get a new library card. I don't even know. I think I lost mine, but I am blessed enough to be able to buy the comics that I want to buy. But if that's not your financial situation, or your financial situation changes, go to the library. Don't pirate comics, especially by small creators. I guess the Turtles are owned by like Paramount now, so I don't think you have to worry about them too much. But
also it doesn't matter, because once you get used to pirating comics, even from the big people that can afford it, for one thing, they can't, because pre-orders are what is driving what actually gets made, not what gets bought on the shelf.
It's a great point.
Because those have already been counted and it doesn't matter. And also, you just get used to pirating, so you do it more.
It's a great point. Yeah, it is a slippery slope. It's a bad habit that can kind of snowball over time. And the pre-orders thing is crazy. That is, I think, if anybody ever solves that, it'll save comics. I don't know much about actual book publishing, but I feel like it also relies on pre-orders on a certain level. And that's crazy. I don't know. We've gone down a different rabbit hole now. That is not necessarily video game related, but hey, comics is in your podcast name too. So I guess it's still related. I don't know. I just finished the first issue of my book, and I don't even know that it'll come out in issues. I think we'll kickstart it in a couple months. It's called Uppercut, but like I've had a bunch of people be like, "Oh, you're going to pitch it?" And I'm like, if I pitch it to a publisher, it definitely won't come out for a year. And that doesn't even matter if it's finished or not. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, publisher's going to have to find a slot for it. Then they're going to have to like announce it and then say, hey, here's pre-orders and first order cutoff. And I was like, I'm going to have to rely on stores to pre-order the first 2 issues before they know how issue 1's going to sell, which means I have to rely on readers to just trust me. And the reality is that people will buy issue 1, won't like it, will cancel their pre-order on issue 2 that the store has already put in. And now that store is stuck with a bunch of extra stock that they don't want and can't move, or might not be able to move, It's a bad system. It's bad for small business owners. It's bad for creators. So I think we're going to go the DIY route, go the Kickstarter route, direct to customer. And I think that's because nobody knows who I am. Don't really.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is. It is. I get away with a lot of crimes, but, it doesn't help sell comics necessarily, or podcasts, I guess.
Well, I think I see some blue lights going through your window. So we're going to go try to hide the bodies while I drop some promos for a few other shows.
Have you ever been in a conversation and someone mentions a special interest that you want to talk about?
Non-stop?
But it's just a little too off topic.
Perhaps there's a random subject someone mentions in passing that you really just want to learn a little more about.
Or maybe you want to listen to some of your favorite podcasters cross over and cover something offbeat and completely unrelated to the podcast they're currently hosting.
Introducing Glitterjaw Presents, a variety podcast feed from the hosts you know,
with plenty of friends along the way.
Each Glitterjaw Presents episode will feature at least one host from a Glitterjaw show,
covering a topic that may not be related to the shows that they host,
or any of the Glitterjaw shows currently on our roster.
These will be standalone episodes,
miniseries,
odd experiments,
and other special presentations on topics ranging
from music
to reality TV
to conversations about the queer media that shaped us,
and so much more.
No matter what the topic, you can expect the same quality from all of your favorite queer podcasters.
And some guests.
Talking about the things they're passionate about.
If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe to the Glitterjaw Presents feed wherever you get your podcasts.
And follow Glitterjaw on Instagram and Blue Sky to be alerted when new episodes drop.
Glitterjaw Presents.
We are Bird's Eye View Comics, an independent comic book group bringing you such genres as action, sci-fi, horror, and adventure. With the release of the debut series Tooth and Nail in 2021, Corey Bird, owner, editor-in-chief, ventured into the world of independent comics. He decided to expand Bird's Eye View Comics by recruiting and collaborating with other talented creators. Now, Bird's Eye View Comics has several original intellectual properties, such as The Raven's Macabre, The Shadow Knight, Ugly the Duck Warrior, and many more. As we continue to expand, we hope to entertain more fans and meet more talented creators. Collaborate, create, not contend. Find us at birdseyeviewcomics.com, Facebook at Bird's Eye View Comics, Instagram, Bird's Eye View Official, and TikTok at Bird's Eye View Comics.
Those are some great shows to check out, but first let's finish up here. So Pierce, what is really bringing us together today is this 2005 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Mutant Nightmare game. First off, just saying that a game came out in 2005 and that it is like 20 years old is disgusting, because that should not have happened ever.
Time passing, you mean?
Yes, time passing. That is horrible.
I mean, listen, time has passed, and yet we are still out here 26 or 27 years old in the prime of our lives. You look great, so do I, and that's why this is a video podcast.
One of us definitely has a face for radio. And Pierce is also here.
Yeah, well, but we are here to talk about this game. It is, like you said, based specifically on a bunch of episodes of the third season. I believe it's the third season of TMNT 2003.
Yeah, that is one cool thing they did, was the games go like the first one goes with the first season, the second one goes with the second season, this goes with the third season.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think I realized that when those games were coming out, because I wasn't watching I was in high school, so I wasn't watching the Turtles as much.
We were much too cool for Turtles in high school.
Trust me, I was not. I was not too cool for them. I still very much loved them.
Oh, we thought so though, because I wasn't either.
So I have two younger brothers. So when I'm in high school, even when I'm I'm 15 when the first season comes out, which means my youngest brother is 10. So I don't know. I'm still in prime Turtle mania. I don't think he was as jazzed on it. I don't think neither of my brothers are as big Turtles fans as I am. Although the 90s movies have been re-released the last couple of years for the 35th anniversaries, and my brother Hunter and I, with a couple of our friends, have gone to the screenings, which has been really cool because they're 4K restorations. I think they are also trying to figure out should we make a new Ninja Turtles movie? Will people go to this? But I think that doing the nostalgia play is probably the wrong thing. But I think these games are pretty fun, and I think if I was watching the show and I was like, oh shit, this is my favorite arc of the show, then it would have been my favorite game of all time. Much like as a comics fan, the Spider-Man games, the Ultimate Spider-Man game especially, which I think came out around the same time as this, which was art style kind of similar to the comics, story kind of similar to the comics, that you felt oh shit, this is that version of the character that I really, really, really like in a really cool game that's really fun to play. I think is really cool. And Turtles is just one of those things. I've talked about it with George on our show, because we talk about Turtles and X-Men probably just as much as we talk about Spawn. But that the Turtles have just kind of stayed popular, and it's because they are always rebooting themselves and relaunching themselves and sort of reinventing themselves. But they also always have nostalgia plays where they're this show is a great example where it harkens back to the 87. If you're a dad watching this with your kid, you're going to be oh shit, they fucking, Jesus, I'm cursing so much. You're going to be oh my God, they brought back my Turtles, Oh, they brought back the comic Turtles. Wow, that's so cool. And the Turtles keep doing that, I think that that's even true of this current era. If you are a dad who grew up with the 2012 Turtles or these 2003 Turtles, there's new Turtles for your kids. And it's kind of beautiful, actually. I think that there's almost no other property that's that good at maintaining their former base without pissing them off totally, and still creating something new for a younger generation to really latch onto. And I think that and through different mediums as well. I've been playing the new Turtles games, Shredder's Revenge, and there's a roguelike also, and those are super fun. One is very much a throwback to the old Turtles in Time type beat 'em ups. One is a very new style kind of roguelike, like Absalom, or even a sort of Balatro, or games like that. And I think that is a really hard needle to thread. And it's crazy that this is the property that does it, on top of this property being such a huge property in the world, because they are giant humanoid turtles that fight each other.
It definitely helps that it starts off on such a crazy premise and it just leans into all the crazy. So when you get into this like universes coming together kind of thing and let's go to space and let's see a ninja rabbit, it's all just normal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, to speak of rabbits, that's why Usagi Yojimbo fits so well into the Turtles universe. Another kind of stalwart of 80s comics. And got to shout out my good friend Zach Rosenberg, who's writing Kaito 84, which is he's an ancestor of Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai, with a new story kind of set in the 80s, which is cool that it's in 1984 when the Turtles kind of first show up. This game being... So I was saying earlier that the reason I wanted to do this one, we got Fugitoid, we got Triceratons, we're going to space, we're going dimension hopping, but we still have Shredder. Shredder's also trying to now like rule the galaxy. We're going as big as possible. And I think that's always really fun. Something that we talk about on Spawnography quite a bit is, and we talked about this with Todd, is that, his one sort of regret in those first 100 issues is that there's not a lot of Doctor Dooms, and by that in his mythology. And by that, he means, like, I just don't have a lot of, like, big villains who feel like overarching threats that can, like, destabilize the story enough or have a plan that feels like it can drive story the same way that Marvel and DC are really good about having characters that if you give them a little bit of a bump in power or a bump in sort of visibility, they suddenly feel like they can take things over, right? Joker feels like he can take over Gotham at any time. Black Adam feels like he could take over the world at any time. Doctor Doom feels like he can take over the world. Magneto, these characters that are like so big, like Spawn doesn't necessarily have them. The Turtles are weird because I think that they are similar to Spawn in that they are street level heroes for the most part. But this kind of proves like it is fun to have them be kind of fish out of water in like a fish out of water scenario. And I think it likens them a little bit more to a team like the X-Men. X-Men were always going to space to hang out with the Shi'ar anyway and like stop whoever was trying to take over the throne of the Shi'ar at any given time from Lilandra, right? And you kind of stick them up there and at first you're like, this feels weird. And then you're like, no, I guess this is fine. They can be these weird like liaisons. Scott's dad's a space pirate. It's okay. And similarly here, like Fugitoid's a robot and the Triceratons have their own thing going on that has nothing to do with the Turtles. But once the Turtles are there, they want to help. Like that's who they are. And they just kind of slot in as like, we see something bad happening and we want to join the forces of good. And it works for Shredder, who already works with Krang and the Utroms, like that, all the Utrom, Ooze, Krang stuff already ties back to there being something bigger than all of them that makes it less weird. And like you said, the premise on its outset feeling very weird, I think removes your sort of suspension of disbelief. You're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, these green guys will go do whatever they want. And I think that's super fun. And so the game ends up being kind of fun for that reason too.
And I think part of the reason why this one gets to go as big as it does is this is Konami's last swing making a Turtles game.
Yeah.
So they don't have any reason to hold anything back. Like they can go put in everything they've ever wanted to do. There's not another game to worry about. Worst case is they ruin a game for whoever gets it next, and that's not their problem.
Yeah. How long did the 2003 Turtles show run? Like it didn't get like another season after this, did it?
I think this is it.
Oh no, it actually went for a while. Oh my god, it went 7 seasons.
It went much longer than either one of us realized because we are horrible people that did not watch cartoons in our early adulthood.
I mean, I was doing other things, but They're short seasons though. Like season 4 is 26. They're all normal size seasons until season 5 is 12. Season 6 is 26 again, and then season 7 is 13. So it's kind of 6 seasons if you want to like add it all up. But I guess it moved networks and stuff a little bit, so it was bouncing around. But yeah, I hear you. Like, I like when developers get to a point where they're like, this is our last shot, so here we go. Like, just let's do the biggest, weirdest stuff that we can. And what's crazy is I think that the show fast forwards in time at one point to like a future. Like it's like 100 years in the future. It's like the kids of Casey Jones and April O'Neil teaming up with the Turtles. The show also gets weird, where I think that they were like, all right, we can't do the 80s show and we can't do some of the comic stuff because it's too adult. Let's just do this other thing. And that's another thing that I think ties it a little bit back to X-Men, in that, like, again, Days of Future Past is like, I think one of the, when we talk about comics, one of the most famous, we're going to do a story of a possible future and how that can only be solved by the characters that we know in the past. How can they prevent this from ever happening? And I think that's always really, really cool. I'm also extremely biased as a New Yorker, that like where I grew up is just also where all the coolest characters from everything have ever lived. So that's also always really fun. But yeah.
One good thing about this game, I think, is that it goes back to that beat 'em up style of games where Mutant Melee, where Battle Nexus went and did the fighter route. This one comes in and says, yeah, we're going to do the first game again in the best way possible. And, you know, fighting games, there's only so much you can do. Once you've made one, unless it's Marvel vs. Capcom or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, like nobody really cares about the difference in there. I mean, I'm sorry, fans of other fighting games, but it's true and you know it.
Well, and also Turtles had already kind of done it. It wasn't the first time they'd done a fighting game, right? They did Tournament Fighter back on the SNES. And I know that, and I know that people have like a ton of nostalgia for that game. It is extremely okay. I like it, but it's okay. This game, so I've been playing TMNT Splintered Fate quite a bit, and I was like, oh, this is like a practice run for a game that would come out like 20 years later, and that's kind of cool. Doesn't have all the same elements, but it is never not fun to run around as turtles and beat up anything.
And this one also has the benefit of all the turtles are there all the time. You don't get to switch between them, which would have made things even better, but they're at least there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is always a drawback with the turtles being 4 very specific characters, is that a lot of games go, you pick one, you kind of go. This one is just like, hey, they're all there. You're going to play as different ones as you go through different things and, you know, go from there. I think it also forces you. So my favorite is Donatello, and he is typically the best character in most of the games just because he has the most range of any of the turtles. And that is true even to Splintered Fate. Like, he's just, you won't get hit as much, and he was the only character that made the NES game possible to beat. That thing's still practically impossible. Turtles games should always force you to have to play as the 4 brothers, because I think their dynamic is so important to whatever story that they're in. Even if the story's in a video game, like, the thing that people keep talking about now is like, oh, is Last Ronin going to be a game? And are you familiar? You read Last Ronin?
Yes, it's been a while since I read it, obviously, because it hasn't been out long enough for me to nostalgia read it yet.
Sure. And it's gotten a kind of like sequel-ish kind of thing, like Last Ronin, The Lost Years, like a kind of a prequel thing. We've now met like the new turtles, like the baby turtles, who all their names mean one, and they're all like different species of turtles, so they have a more unique sort of character designs across the board. But like, the thing that would be kind of a bummer about playing The Last Ronin is like, yeah, I get that Mikey at that point, spoilers for Last Ronin, it's Mikey. Sorry, everybody, that book's been out for like 12 years, so go to your local library and read it. But I would be kind of bummed if the game didn't put me in a situation where I had to have Mikey recall some of the skills of his brothers that he now has to use, right? Where he maybe loses everything but size. He loses everything but a bow staff, loses everything but a sword, a katana. to sort of harken back to the familial connection that they have. I think the thing that's kind of beautiful about Turtles games is they are best played in a group of 4, and that like you play with your friends and you each pick a turtle and you go and you will have the best time in the world, even if you don't end up beating the game. Because in every group of 4, you can always assign a turtle to somebody in the group. You might, like my favorite's Donatello, but in every group I know I'm not Donatello, so.
I think this game does a really good job of getting into the real spirit of the episodes that it has in there. I mean, it's showing you either pre-rendered scenes or like game engine cutscenes. Everything looks good. I mean, the voice acting is as good as I would expect it to be from 2005. So like, we're not going to look at it now and say, oh, that's amazing, but you're also not going to cringe at it because it's so horrible. So it's got that going for it.
Yeah, and I mean, tie-in games are typically, right, if it's a movie tie-in, most of us are already like, all right, it's going to be garbage. This is a TV show tie-in, and I think that people probably came into it like, all right, and I think the reviews kind of bear this out too. It's kind of like, I guess if you're a diehard, you'll like this. If you have nostalgia for the Turtles in general, you'll like this, but it's not like their best outing, but all that said, I played the DS version and I had a good time with it. I'd play that on the bus, play it on the subway. Subway, I guess, feels like the most appropriate place to play it, but it's one of those things looking back where you're like, oh, wow, this is better than it has any right to be. And I think that's partly because we just don't get games like it anymore. Like when we do get games like it now, it's the sort of like auto battlers, like, oh God, what's that Marvel game? Contest of Champions, like that kind of thing where you're like, oh, this is just like a poor facsimile of the kind of game that we used to just like pump out in the 2000s. And now you can just click a fast forward button and it plays it for you because you're strong enough. And like, that's like not a game to me. At least this, you have to actively play it, and that kind of bumps it up a couple stars in my book.
Yeah, this one, I mean, it's a Turtles game. There is no question about it. It has the weirdness of the Turtles that we love. It has all of the big villains in Turtles that you really expect to be there. Like, it's just good.
Yeah, I think and that's just because they're not part of the storyline. The only thing you're missing is like Krang and the Utroms. They're just not part of the storyline, which is like fine. I think I love Fugitoid. I think Fugitoid is so fun. And I love every time he shows up, Professor Honeycutt. And also I love Shredder and Karai. Like, there's a reason that Shredder is as iconic as he is. And it's so funny that he's a character based on a cheese grater. But, like, I think for me, the reason that my base... I don't think that there's... So we were even talking about Ninja Turtles 3, the movie. And, like, yeah, it's like the worst of those movies. But Turtles is weirdly the property that even when the thing that's being presented to me is kind of bad or like has issues, I'm able to find the thing in it that is the kind of pure heart of the Turtles. And if that exists, I have a hard time completely writing it off. What I mean by that is, because that sounded weird and pretentious. What I mean by that is like, I think the Michael Bay movies are basically an abomination, mostly because the turtle designs are bad and because they make Casey Jones a cop, which is what a weird read on the character. But there's a few scenes in those movies that are just so pitch perfect that I'm like, somebody involved in this got kind of shouted down about what this movie was supposed to be, but they got a couple of scenes through. And the two ones in the Bay movies are, in the first one, they start beatboxing like in the elevator, and that just feels like Ninja Turtles to me. Like, it feels like 4 teenagers, like they're on the way to like a battle basically, but they just kind of start like having fun. And then the opening scene of the second movie, Out of the Shadows, they're watching a Knicks game from the inside of the Jumbotron. So like they've used their like ninja know-how to infiltrate Madison Square Garden and eat pizza inside the Jumbotron, which is the weirdest vantage point to watch a basketball game from, as it is in the middle of the court. So I'm not fully sure how they can see who's scoring, easily. And then one of them drops like a slice of pizza and a star player gets injured and like whatever, and they run away. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what teenagers would do. They would sneak into the game, eat pizza in shitty seats, you know? And so like, I don't think it takes a lot to harness some essence of the Turtles, as it were. And I think this game does a great job, partly because I think the 2003 show is very good. Like I think I haven't watched the newest show, which is sort of the Tales from Mutant Mayhem, which is the spinoff of the Seth Rogen movie. I haven't watched it at all. I watched some of Rise of the TMNT, which is the sort of anime influenced one. I think the animation in it's really cool. I don't love all the characterizations of their version of the Turtles. And some of the character designs are a little Cal artsy, and that's not always my favorite. I think it's a weird fit for them. But I do like that they're kind of like different sizes. Their personalities are a little different from what we're used to. I think that's always fun. The 2012 Turtles, that's the hardest one to go back to because the weird 3D animation did not age well. Like it probably looked. I remember watching it when it came out, and I was like, "This is cool. Like I like these guys." And then I've tried to go back to it. I'm like, oh, this is like watching like Flash animation or something. It just did not age well. But you have like Sean Astin as Raphael in that. So you have some like fun voice acting performances. And the original Raphael is now Donatello from the 80s show. 2003 is the one where if they were like, yo, we're like X-Men 97. Hey, we're putting out TMNT 03. People would like pop for it. It's a little bit edgier, but not like super dark. Feels a little bit more adult. Still feels super weird. And it makes it easy for the game to just be like, we're just doing the show. You know, you get to play the show, and that rules.
As we start to wrap this thing up, what do you think are the biggest things that this game gets right looking at Ninja Turtles as a whole?
I think that this is very much aided by the fact that it is based on the show, and I think the show does basically everything right. I don't know that there's anything about the 2003 show that I'm like, oh, really wish they didn't do that. Because also Turtles had so many iterations that there are missteps, but I don't know that they are so crazy that it'll completely turn you off from any version of them. I think what this does right is, one, I think that the form of it, right, it not being a fighting game when the last one was, and it being this sort of like beat 'em up. The sort of like beat 'em up is where Turtles should live, because that's like their whole deal, right? So like, yeah, send them around a city, send them around an environment, have them beat up Foot Clan members or Triceratons or, you know, Utroms or whatever they got to beat up. And I think that that's like kind of, and have it showcase their skills. And I think that this works for that. I love that it also forces, if this was your first Ninja Turtles game and you didn't have any other context for the Turtles, you'd be like, oh, cool sci-fi ninja guys. Got it. Like, that's cool. I love Shredder still being kind of at the center of it, because I think Shredder is always a cool character in every iteration of himself. I think the 2003 version of him is also one of the best. And in classic like video game fashion, we get this like incredible escalation of things where it's like we start with Turtles, we go to Triceratons, we get to Shredder trying to take over the galaxy, we got to protect the Earth. And we land on multiversal time scepter madness. Like, it just goes so crazy, and that's cool. Like, that what more could you want, you know? And so I think that what's always really fun with characters that are street level like this is when you send them to these like crazy stakes, and then you kind of, at the end of the day, they just kind of have to return to the sewer and eat pizza. So that's kind of all they want to do, you know? And that's always kind of fun.
It is so easy to mess it up and do it wrong when you're sending street level characters up into cosmic things like that, because most of the time you need to just give them some big of a giant buff so that they can hang with everything on that cosmic level. And you don't need to do that with Turtles, because part of their thing is the teamwork and the problem solving and just the craziness of everything. And honestly, I think the craziness is the biggest thing for me that this game gets right.
Yeah.
Because it scales it up like that. And it doesn't try to put a limit on how far it's going to go. It goes as far as Turtles goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like I've said, like Turtles are pretty far reaching in terms of like weirdness, but also like, I think the more recent IDW stuff by Sophie Campbell shows this like real, like kind of street level heart to things. And like, that is easily, they fit in at Mos Eisley Cantina. You know what I mean? Like they fit in they don't fit in the human world, but when you put them in weird places, they do fit in because they are also weird. And so you don't have to be afraid of getting extremely, extremely weird with them and them kind of rolling with it. The other thing is that we are shown time and time again that they're extremely capable. They're very capable characters. They all have inherent flaws, but they are extremely capable characters. The reason why Mikey works as the last Ronin is because despite his fun-loving, goofy attitude, he's extremely capable. There's kind of there's like a thing about how the Turtles are all given their weapons because they're sort of the opposite of their personalities. And that's like a read on why they have the weapons that they have. And so, Donatello is so scientifically minded, he gets a stick. Leonardo gets the deadliest weapon, even though he is the one that must practice restraint with that weapon because he is the leader and must set a good example. Raph has a weapon that is a defensive weapon, despite his rage. And Mikey gets a weapon that requires extreme focus and skill to master, despite the fact that, like, he's a character you can kind of read as, like, an ADHD type of character, like a super unfocused, he may be super talented and skilled, but he doesn't always practice, right? He doesn't always... he's maybe innately talented, but he maybe doesn't go past that, but the choice of weapon kind of puts him there. And so they are easy characters, even when they are fish out of water, even when they're strangers in a strange land, they are still characters that you trust enough to go along with them. You don't feel like in whatever situation, it's just like a writer kind of getting them out of a situation with some sort of deus ex machina or whatever, like some story contrivance. They do feel like characters who, especially when they work together, are able to kind of get out of any situation. And I think that's awesome. And like, yeah, these episodes, I mean, I'll call them episodes because that's basically what this game is, bear that out, right? The Turtles kind of figure out the situation they're in, and they figure out how they're going to get out of it, even as it gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And I think that's awesome.
Also, just jumping back to the Sophie Campbell of it all, spoiler alert for Sophie Campbell stuff. Sophie Campbell makes good comics.
Very true. Very true.
What do you think this game gets wrong looking at Turtles?
I don't know that it gets all that much wrong. I mean, I think that, like, they're trying to save Casey and April, so it does sideline those two characters. I do think that, a problem that the Turtles typically have is with their treatment of female characters, because there's not very many of them. But that's not like the game getting anything wrong. I'd argue that, like, if we're going to talk about the game itself, like, gameplay's a little repetitive. That's what's going to happen when you're basically a beat 'em up, the kind of action game, Again, I don't know that that's like, these are really criticisms of the game so much as they are criticisms of the property. That's why we got Jenica, right? Like, we got a female turtle because, like, otherwise the boys, like, don't talk to a girl for 10 to 15 issues at a time. That's why there are more female villains, just because, again, you need to put women in there somewhere. Yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe my bar is pretty low for a Turtles game, but, like, I had a good time, and I don't know that it gets anything, since it's based on something that I consider a pretty strong piece of work in Turtle Land. I don't know that it gets too much wrong.
Your bar might be low for it being a Turtles game, but that being said, it's like the only things I can think of are, like, I mean, yeah, sidelining Casey and April, that sucks in the context of the game because you don't get to use them for anything.
Yeah.
But also makes perfect sense if they had done that for a story arc, because it's going to happen to everybody every once in a while.
Yeah, you got to get kidnapped.
I know, right? I think the only thing I can really criticize about this, which is just me being totally fake about the entire thing and lying through my teeth when I say this, is, oh no, it's not the version of Turtles that I wanted it to be, which double doesn't work because you should come into this knowing that it's based on the 2003 series. That's what it's going to be. But also Turtles just kind of mixes its eras. It's what Turtles does, deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, this is kind of what I was saying about there really being a Turtles for all ages, is that like there are people who love the 80s comics and then jumped off after that and they're like, those are my Turtles. There are people that love the 80s cartoon and jumped off after that and said, those are my Turtles. Same for the 90s movies. Hell, I'm sure there's somebody out there that loves like TMNT, The Next Mutation. I've never met them, but somebody does. There's people out there that love the live rock show version of the Turtles. NECA even made toys of those. But then, the 2003 Turtles, the 2012 Turtles, the 2017 Turtles, the 2022 Turtles, and Mutant Mayhem. I mean, it feels like we're reinventing the Turtles constantly, and like you could do much worse than this game, first of all, especially for a tie-in game.
Well, I mean, even speaking of that, if you knew somebody who somehow was living under a rock and didn't know about the Turtles, would you give them this game as part of a primer course to get them into Turtles?
I think this wouldn't be at the top of my list. I think Turtles in Time would be the top of my list because I think Turtles in Time is kind of the one everybody thinks of. Like if you were trying to get into Turtles and never played a Turtles game, that one gets you the sort of basics pretty easily. Oh, a pizza heals you and all this stuff. And like, it is, and it's also fairly easy for an arcade. I mean, because they wouldn't be playing on the arcade cabinet, I assume. They'd be playing at home, unlimited lives. You play with a few buddies, grab a pizza. Like, that's to me like the platonic ideal of how to engage with Turtles. Whereas this might, while I love the weirdness of it, because it doesn't have like Baxter Stockman, it doesn't have like, it doesn't have like Bebop and Rocksteady in the same way. It doesn't have some of the iconic characters that you do want to see for somebody that's like meeting the Turtles for the first time. And also it's like takes them out of their setting for the most part. I don't know that it's the best introduction, but if they're watching like the 2003 show, I think I'd recommend all the games that are based off the 2003 show, just because I'd be like, hey, if you like those episodes, you can play a game based on them.
Yeah, this game is real solid. I mean, it's good. It's good representation of Turtles. But I'm with you. This is not a game for introducing. This is a game for you already know about Turtles and get more into it.
Yeah, this will help you get deeper.
Special bonus question just for you. Does Fugitoid deserve a funeral?
Yes. To be consistent, Fugitoid deserves a funeral. Even if you murder him. I think Fugitoid deserves a funeral, and you can fight with George about that on a future episode if George does not agree. Now I kind of want to ask, for listeners who are not aware, Herbie from the Fantastic Four, I argue, deserves a funeral, and because I believe that Herbie has a soul. But my co-host, my dastardly co-host, does not believe, has really come around. We've changed their mind over the course of many episodes, but one of the running themes of our show is whether or not Herbie does deserve rights and or a funeral. And I believe that he deserves both.
I've been with you from the beginning on that.
Thank you. There are dozens of us. I do think I relented on the funeral bit, but I'm going to get George to come around on that somehow. We'll see. But I do think that Herbie deserves rights. I think Fugitoid deserves rights as well. And that's because cute robots typically deserve rights. Robot that does not deserve rights is the robot from Rocky IV. You can quote me on that.
Getting back to the normalness, where normalness is relative for this show, let's say that they were going to do a live action reboot of the 2003 cartoon, where I use live action really, really loosely. Which Muppets are going to play the Turtles?
Okay, this is tough because I don't think canonically there are any Muppet Turtles that are not the Henson Creature Shop costumes. And those don't count as Muppets because they're costumes, because human beings are inside of them.
And even if you do want to count them as Turtles, that's cheating. Or as Muppets, that's cheating.
So the question is really, which of the Muppet Show Muppets, like the Muppets, capital T, capital M?
I mean, if you want to take Sesame Street into there too, it'll make it harder or easier.
That's true. I don't know. See, well, that's weird because I would say Big Bird and Kermit have similar energy. So, like, you can make the argument for either of them being Leonardo. But I'm going to go with Muppet Show Muppets in the interest of being specific. I think obviously Kermit is Leo. I think Animal is Raphael. I think Fozzie is Michelangelo. No, maybe Gonzo is Raphael. It's weird because none of them are all that angry, and I don't want to leave out Gonzo. Is Gonzo Donatello? It's tough because I want to say like Scooter is Donatello. He's more Donatello coded. But then you got Rolf. Where's Rolf? You got to have Rolf. Is Rolf just Splinter? Maybe.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
But is Rizzo Splinter? He's a rat.
No, he's Splinter's cousin that we don't see very often.
But is he Michelangelo? See, like, the thing with the Muppets are actually tough. The Muppets are tough to do as the Turtles. I know in my heart that Kermit and Fozzie are Leo and Mikey. I guess that it's about their dynamics. Okay, so that is what it is. Stand by. So it's about their dynamics, right? Because the Turtles are also about pairings, right? And Leo and Raph are typically like the pair that you see together because they are antagonistic against each other. And then Mikey and Donnie are sort of a pairing because they are sort of the comic relief in a lot of ways, but like they have a little bit more in common because they're like a little bit more chill than the other two. So in a weird way, Miss Piggy is kind of the best Raphael. She also does karate canonically. So she's maybe the most trained. So then who with Fozzie is interesting? It's Gonzo. Gonzo's Donatello then. It's kind of how it has to be. I know it feels weird because he doesn't seem that scientific, but we also don't really know what he is. So, there's that. And then Splinter, you can go a lot of ways with Splinter. I guess Splinter is just Splinter because Splinter was a puppet. So I will go with actual Splinter is Splinter. And then the other four, Kermit, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and Fozzie Bear. Final answer.
That works.
Yeah. Thanks for going on that journey with me.
It was a journey, but it was a journey that very much needed to happen.
Can you tell I've thought about this a lot?
I mean, I assume that like most people, you just think about Muppets a lot in your everyday life.
I do. I love the Muppets. I think that there should be a Muppets movie basically every 2 years, and the world would be a better place for it. And the fact that there isn't is, I think, an affront to God herself. But,
Well, speaking of making the world a better place, if people want to hear more from you, because it has been so great talking to you about all these turtle things, where else can they find you on the internet?
Cool. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find at lapsed.punk on Instagram if you just want to see me post about running and stuff. But if you want to listen to my Spawn podcast with my co-host George, it's called Spawnography. You can find us at Spawnography or at Spawnography Pod on random places on the internet. We're pretty bad at social media, but we're decently active on Instagram. You can find us wherever podcasts are hosted. For myself, if you pay attention to my personal Instagram, I'll definitely have some announcements about my comic Uppercut in the next few months. So, keep an eye out there. And that's kind of the main places.
And as always, we'll have links to all that stuff down in the show notes because clicking links is so much easier than trying to remember how to spell things. As for me, if you want to find me, the best place to do that is over on playcomics.com, where there's links to all the social media things, which is pretty much Blue Sky and Threads, or Threads and Blue Sky. I haven't decided which one I like better. I don't know what it depends on. Maybe I'm sure I'll get that figured out at some point. If you want to be on the show, then there's a link to what I'm looking to get booked the soonest down in the show notes. So, actually look at show notes and check out the link in there, and you can see all these things that I'm trying to find a guest for. So if one of those matches up for you, if you think one of those matches up for a friend, let me know, and we'll make it happen. If you want to support the show, then you can be like Dan McMahon or Ono Lit Class and give the show money, because unfortunately it does cost money to run a podcast. But that being said, you can also just share it with other people. So you know, friends and family, and not the random people on the bus, because that would be rude. At least if you're playing it over the speakers. If they're just asking you about cool things, then yeah, go ahead and tell them about it, because, you know, that's cool. They're actually asking for interaction and information from you. Don't forget that Play Comics is a part of the GonnaGeek.com network, home to such other wonderful shows as Capes on the Couch, where there is plenty of backlog where you can hear Anthony and Doc looking at the mental health struggles of various comic book characters. Some of them are superheroes, some of them are not, but they're all comic characters, which means they're all probably somebody's favorite character. Although they haven't done my favorite character yet, Spider-Gwen. If you really like the music that I'm really talking on top of right now, head on over to backandtrack.gg and check out all the great music over there, and maybe find something for your own project. But most of all, just grab a game, grab a stack of comics, and go find yourself a new favorite character. Well, I think I see some blue lights going through your window. So we're going to go try to hide the bodies while I drop some promos for a few other shows. I didn't really.
No, I was worried that you did, because that wouldn't be that surprising in my neighborhood. So, like, my neighborhood's extremely safe, but at the same time, there are a lot of cops around, and there is a driveway in my backyard, so people will drive through. So when you said that, I was like, oh, was somebody actually coming through? But cool. Do you have to do the lead in back from the commercials?